Hi, my name's Patty Correl and I'm an epidemiologist at New South Wales Ministry of Health. I'd like to start this presentation with a question. Why is data linkage a thing where we have a whole conference to talk about it? I think the answer is because it's hard and because it's also worth it. We've been on a 5-year journey in data linkage in the Lumos program, and I'd like to share with you some of the things we've learnt. I'll start with what Lumos is. It's a data linkage program that extracts records from general practices and links them to other data across the New South Wales health system. The aim is to shed light on patient journeys from primary care through to acute care services. Today, we have over 250 general practices enrolled in Lumos from all 10 New South Wales primary health networks. And this has already got over 2 million patient journeys, which is around about 25% of the New South Wales population. Lumos started out as a pilot project, and in this project, there are a number of challenges we had to solve, and that's what I want to talk about today. We ran the pilot project as a series of cycles where we enrolled GPs, then did data extraction, transfer, linkage, storage, analysis, and reporting. We repeated this cycle 5 times between 2016 and 2019. And with each cycle, we increased the number of practices, the number of patients, and the number of PHNs involved. And as we went through these cycles, we solved the various problems that we confronted. I'll take these through one by one now. First thing we had to do was authorise a data linkage program that would link personal health information. And we did this through an ethics approval. The ethics approval involved a GP information and consent process. One of the challenging things about the application was to obtain a waiver of individual patient consent, which we did on the grounds that it was a pilot project, that it was using existing information and that there were strong security processes in place. So with that, we embarked with a few innovative general practices in one PHN who could see the value in the opportunity of what we wanted to do. In data extraction, as you might expect, we extracted patients' names for linkage to the other data sets across the New South Wales health system. The extraction of this personal identifying information was kept safe through the application of the separation principle, which is considered best practice, where you keep files that contain the names, addresses, dates and birth, identifying information for linkage, separate at all times from the health content data that will be analysed. What we found as we expanded Lumos was that there were a significant number of GPs who would not give the New South Wales health system their patients' names and addresses, even with the separation principle. And this was set to be a significant barrier to the expansion of Lumos. The solution we came to was for the Centre for Health Record Linkage to work with Curtin University, who had some software that could be used Bloom filters to encode the named data at source. So as you can see in the diagram here, it transforms the name or address or date of birth through a number of processes that results in a series of 1s and 0s. And importantly, this process can't be reversed to go back to the original name. So now when a GP enrolls in Lumos, this Curtin University software is deployed as a part of the program so that the patient's names do not have to leave their practice. The next thing I'm going to tell you about is to do with data transfer. New South Wales Health is very good at transferring data within its system, for instance, from hospitals to the Ministry of Health. But it isn't all set up for receiving data from external sources, and especially when it's en masse, like we would require for the Lumos program. So in order to deal with this, we created a portal called Authenticate that would allow data custodians to register their site and get a digital certificate. This certificate tells the New South Wales health system that they're a legitimate and trustworthy source for transferring data into the system. So when a GP enrolls in Lumos, they are set up with an Authenticate certificate so that their data can be received as seamlessly as possible in a very automated way. The other thing you might expect of a population data linkage project like Lumos is that we would do probabilistic linkage. And we could still do probabilistic linkage with the encoded data using a technique called privacy-preserving record linkage. The Centre for Health Record Linkage already has a huge amount of linked data in its master linkage key from the New South Wales health system. So what it did was it extracted its hospital ED and mortality records and encoded those files, those linkage files, with the same Bloom filters that had been used for the GP records. And this way we could link the encoded records from the master linkage key with the encoded records from general practices. And importantly, it could allow for a margin of error so that if the encodes weren't exactly the same, say it had been Patricia in one data set and Patty in the other, the data could still link if it was the same person. The next thing I want to tell you about is to do with data storage and access. Once again, the New South Wales health system is really well set up to give access to a vast amount of data to personnel who are within New South Wales Health, but it's virtually impossible for external users to access data that is within the system. This is a real problem for Lumos because it comprises data that is from both within New South Wales Health and outside of New South Wales Health. And we form partnerships with PHNs, and they expect to get access to their linked data asset as one of the benefits of Lumos. We tried releasing the data sets to the PHNs, but the problem there is you get multiple data sets with multiple sources of truth and increased risks to security. So instead, what we've done is develop the Secure Analytics Primary Health environment. This is a cloud-based data safe, and it's the first of its kind to hold New South Wales data assets in the cloud. The safe is able to allow access to people outside of the system and to different, as well as within the system, and give access according to their needs. It's taken a lot to get this system up and running, and even as I am preparing this presentation, it's only on the brink of going live. I really hope that when you're watching this, that it's actually now up and running. So I hope in this presentation, I've shown you that the Lumos program was challenging. It was hard, but it was also worth it. Just during the pilot, there were over 100 participating practices across all 10 PHNs with 1 million patient journeys. And we learned a lot along the way, and I think we created some legacies along the way that can be used in other parts of the health system, including Authenticate, privacy-preserving record linkage, and also the SAFE. Now Lumos has been funded and given ethics approval to go for a statewide expansion. And so we're very busy expanding that at the moment. We're about here. The vision is that this will one day become business as usual. My vision is that one day we'll wonder how we ever managed without it. So to finish, I'd like to acknowledge my co-authors and colleagues who are an amazing, determined bunch of people. And I would also like to express my gratitude to New South Wales Primary Health Networks and the GPs that have participated in Lumos. Without them, Lumos is just not possible. Thank you.